So I'd like to take 4 of your fingers, or as many as you have, and put it right about here. I want you to be real quiet. I want you to feel that. You feel it? Is that a cool sensation? I thought to myself, what would that be like if that didn't do that? If it didn't beat, if the heart didn't pound? What would that be like? And what a miraculous gift you can give somebody to let it beat again. There is nothing that can beat the beating of the heart, and it's people who have a heart, who are willing to give the time and the effort, their careers, and in some cases their lives, to help other people's hearts keep beating, that I want to applaud. And I'd like to do that right now.
Stop 190 medical aid for a fall victim.
Truck 1 responding.
Truck 1 responding.
It just happened. I mean, I just went, this is it. This is what I want to do. After about 4 or 5 times of going to the station, there was like this sense of what the guys do, and the camaraderie, the excitement of the, the honk and the woo and the lights, and, you're the heroes going out. And for a young man, I mean, I was 16 or 17 years old at the time, it just really appealed to me. So I suddenly said, that's what I want to do.
Came down the ridge and found a vehicle into a tree that was just annihilated. And as I got a little bit closer, there was a couple firefighters on scene, and I noticed that there was a human being inside. Firefighters getting there, breaking out the jaws of life, and proceeding to methodically extricate this individual and get him out alive. I was amazed at their work, their teamwork, their skill, their persistence, and I said, that's something I can do and I want to do.
If I was to be a firefighter, I'd probably still be working with my dad on the same line, and I think that's really cool, me and my dad being a firefighter together.
Now I'm like really interested in it because I got to go on calls and see what it was like, so I didn't think it would be that much fun. So I think I want to be a firefighter when I grow up.
I was about an 8 or 9 year old kid out playing one day on my bike, and I heard sirens and looked up a couple streets away, and I saw this big column of smoke, and I pedaled myself over there, and it was this abandoned house on top of a hill, and it was fully involved. And I stayed there and watched the firefighters dragging, hose around the house and squirting water and putting the fire out, and I just thought, that is really cool. I like that. And from that point on, I was hooked.
When I was a little girl, girls were not firefighters. And I told my dad, I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. And he said, well, you're going to have to learn how to stand flat-footed and pee over a 6-foot wall. And so that kind of set me back for a little while. How was I going to do that? And sometime later, I remember saying to my dad, well, I've got it. I could stand on top of the wall.
My father was a firefighter. So my whole life growing up as a kid, my mom would get fire paraphernalia and put that on the walls, fire helmets and things, so we were always around the fire service. So when I left high school and exploring what professions I might consider, firefighting was right there among one of my choices.
We had a fire one time up off Petaluma Hill Road where we were about 1,000 feet up on this hose lay up at the top of the hill, and we're just getting beaten, and to the point where I'm putting out so much effort, I'm taking in so much smoke, I'd throw up, I'd get myself up, run up the hill some more with some hose, fall to my knees, throw up again, get up the hill, throw up again, and keep going. I mean, it was just brutal. And I sat there and thought, there's other people that are sitting at a desk right now with a nice cold iced tea sitting right next to them, doing paperwork on the computer, and I thought, you know what? I can't think of a better place to be than right here, right now, doing this job.
XH23D, automatic aid for an unknown medical problem.
When you go to the bathroom, that's when you're going to get the call. When you jump into the shower because you just got done working out, that's when you're going to get the call. And so you might think, oh, that doesn't stress me out, but
You would walk around to do whatever you're going to do all day long, and somebody behind you is holding a balloon and they've got a pin, and when they pop the balloon, it's going to startle you because you don't know when they're going to do it. And then you have to hurry up and go do a bunch of physical things, jump into our gear, get on the rig, understand where you're going, start the rig up, head the right direction, and negotiate traffic.
that draws a lot physically from you because you go from 0 to 100 in a matter of a couple of minutes. You get that call and you go. So physically, there's some high demands to be ready to do that, and also in the actual arriving on scene of an involved fire in order to be able to see that through and dealing with very heavy hoses and ladders and trying to gain entry into the buildings. I think physically that's a very demanding thing that you have to face. We also become not only just a person that you call for fires, but 90% of our job is medical. When I first got here in '86, we were at 6,000 or 7,000 runs, and now we're over 15,000 runs. I think we have 4 more people on duty than we did back then.
Sleep deprivation is another thing. We work 24 hours, we're off 24, we work 24, we're off 24, we work 24. And by the end of the go-around, if you haven't slept, you don't sleep as well at work as you might at home.
Got to the point where I was used to sleeping about 2 hours a night when I'd work to maybe 3 hours and sleep hard the next night type of thing when I was off. And well, I'm telling you, I think I got every crack memorized in my ceiling right about now from laying in bed there not sleeping.
So physically, it is challenging to be able to have the strength to still work when you are exhausted.
Normally, before you do any heavy lifting, you should stretch first, kind of warm up, work into it, and we don't get that opportunity.
The captain never asks you to go back to the engine and get a piece of paper or a piece of balsa wood. It's always a smoke ejector or a hose or whatever that weighs, 100 pounds or 150 pounds. And I don't think people realize when they get in that this job is going to break you down. I don't think the public knows just how much of a physical as well as a mental demand the fire service is.
The paperwork shows it's a workers' comp, so you were injured through work. We just need 2 forms filled out. And these are just filled out. And you just have a seat, fill them out, and bring them back up.
Well, I injured my shoulder and back and neck when I was putting up a 20-foot straight ladder. Strained or did some damage or did something to it that mostly got the left side numbness and tingling and falls asleep, 8 or 10 times in an hour or more.
You're going to do 10 seconds each, and then after that we'll get into the longer ones. But I'll let you.
There's a possibility that it could be career-threatening, and it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better, so you have to deal with what it is and deal with the cards that are dealt you.
And one more set, 10 seconds. And here we go.
My big thing is I like to go to calls. I'm on engine 1. It's the busiest engine in the city, and we go on 15 to 20 calls a shift and sit on the sidelines and watch everybody else go out on calls. It's not real rewarding, to tell you the truth. Psychologically, it's pretty lousy.
Okay, let's sit. Just sit there a minute. Okay. That's it.
I think anybody, when they get hurt like this, they're concerned about it. You try not to think about it, but it is there.
I didn't really expect was the emotional challenge of what we see in our careers. The physical challenges are easy to stay up with just by staying in shape and stuff, and it's the emotional ones that kind of come and get you by surprise.
knowing that most of the things that we go on can be prevented, could have been prevented, it's a bit emotional for me. In other words, this thing didn't have to happen this way. This could have easily been prevented. It's difficult seeing that. We see a fair amount of death and families dealing with it. That weighs heavy on you. It affects us. We don't come apart at the scene, but rest assured that we feel what they feel. And the only solace we have is we do everything we can to make the family as comfortable as possible. So we see a lot of things that most people don't see. It's a real cross section of life that we get to see. Gives you a lot of perspective.
Sometimes it seems mundane and kind of quiet, doing routine inspections, routine training. 5 minutes later, you're faced with a bad situation for someone else that who might be dying, or their property might be being destroyed by a fire, or they might be having a medical emergency.
No one ever wants to have the fire department call to their house or their personal need. So I think emotionally it's very challenging when you have to interact and deal with those people whose house at this point in time is in flames. Emotionally, that's very difficult. I think you take that in, you take a little bit of every incident that you face in to yourself, and it becomes a part of you.
Wearing your seatbelt?
You may have injured your neck or back.
The hardest part of my job, I think, that most people don't realize is the smells. The smells that we have to smell.
You kind of associate some calls with sights, sounds, or smells. 6 calls in my career have bothered me. The sight of cottage cheese or apple juice or railroad tracks, all associate with those calls that I'd rather not have been on.
911, state your emergency. I'm dispatching fire now. Extrication assignment.
For traffic accident, engine 2, truck 2, battalion 1 response.
A lot of people that don't see the reality of what the world can do and what happens in the world, when people get hurt or injured or just disease, sickness, tragedy, people's crises. When we go out of the station, we're going to someone's crisis. It may be their house is on fire. It may be their father's having a heart attack. They may have been shot. They may have been in a car wreck. And it may be something as simple as their water heater broke and is leaking all over the garage and they don't know who else to call. But to them, it's a crisis. And we are the ones that they call. And we go out, and our job is to go help them alleviate their crisis. So sometimes we can do it, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we're successful, and sometimes we're not. And when you're not, sometimes that's a little hard to deal with. Sometimes you can't save everyone's life.
And that's tough. That's hard. We, as a group and as a group of professionals, we don't like to lose. We hate to lose.
We're not God, but we like to think we are. We like to think that we can't not do something. Give us a task and we're going to do it.
We're nowhere, near on God level, so we can't change what's already happened. A lot of times, as much as you think, hey, we're here, man, we're gonna do some stuff for you. Unfortunately, our powers are limited, and as much as you'd like to think, oh, I can come here and do this, sometimes it's a helpless feeling when you do CPR for a half an hour on a kid, and he just doesn't come back to life. It's sometimes it's demoralizing,
And there was a pretty main character that was like one of the big guys in one of the gangs. We had gone on a call where he had gotten shot. We took this guy to the hospital, and it was pretty urgent. He was going downhill. He was, his level of consciousness and everything was decreasing, but he was talking to us and telling us, where his pain was, and he's starting to have trouble breathing. We're doing everything we can, everything we can. And before we could even get to the hospital, he died on us. And I mean, this guy was, he intimidated me just by looking at him. He had all these tattoos all over him, teardrops and all these tattoos on his neck. I mean, he looked like a pretty tough character. But, as I was at his head trying to, keep him breathing and give him oxygen, as he's slowly going away, I mean, he's just another guy. He's just a human being. Now, I don't know what caused him to take the life he chose, but That one, I mean, just to have this guy die literally in my hands was just tough, and it bugged me for a long time.
Sir? Hey, sir? Come on. Look at me. He was holding his belly like this, playing something abdominal.
During one set of 5 shifts, I had a sequence of quite a few deaths. And deaths are not uncommon, and we get them, you know, they come and go at any given time, and I've been around that the whole time. And it was very soon thereafter I started having a body twitch, uncontrollable body twitch. It was at a time in where I was reflecting on the deaths. So I was retired off with an industrial disability retirement at the age of 35.
My son AJ, who's 15, asks me every day I come home, do you have any good calls? And I can't tell him every call I've been on because it'll give him emotional scars and stuff too. And I got to thinking about this the other day, is it's getting to be fewer and fewer good calls that I've seen so much in 17 years that I'd rather not see any more of that stuff.
Yeah, there's bad calls.
There's a man and a woman, and they were both assaulted during the night, and one of them was killed. So it was actually a murder scene.
A drowning of an 8-month-old baby in a bathtub.
A woman who was sexually assaulted.
And one morning we got a call, and he's hung himself from a basketball standard in the local park right there.
Found her working and took a hammer and hit her on the head.
Tried to help out the one person that was still living. And said we
hung
didn't think that
himself
we were going to have much luck.
to a baby man running over his
face on that baby's face, and it made me work that much harder because I knew that
she was screaming and yelling, asking questions to us.
You know, you're watching his rhythm's changing, down, full arrest. And so I'm going
I kept seeing my son's face, and as hard as that was, just the hardest thing
I've
in
never
the
seen
world.
before that was strictly out of the movies, but this was real.
See again. You hope something like that never happens to anyone else again.
In front of you. Now we're doing a whole nother series of medical treatments.
It goes from being the toughest thing in the world that you've ever done.
Oh my God, that's the last thing they need to see.
Dead. You know, I don't want to do that anymore.
Can't pull the balance, engine 8 to handle. Truck 1, I'll show you in service.
Oh, how do I relieve my stress? I work out a lot. I play music. I cherish my time with my family, my friends, a lot. You just, one day at a time, you know, every day is, you just cherish every day.
We're known as tough macho guys, and there's not a lot of crying that goes on at the station, so you kind of hold a lot of stuff inside, and you get filled up, and you just can't take anymore.
If you internalized everything you saw and took everything personally, all the tragedy that we, you know, come across, you'd go nuts. You'd literally go nuts. So I think a defense mechanism and a stress reliever is humor, and I think it's really healthy too.
Noodles? Or are you more in the mood for pig's ears? Let's just go for the pig's ears.
Please, can't we have it?
Okay, boys. Sorry, there's only 10 to a pack. Someone's going to have to share a pig's ear. What the heck?
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, you can count to 4.
I'll stand back.
Yeah, stand back. Now there's just 2. It's simple subtraction.
There's a thing called gallows humor. And the idea is that, you know, we go and do and see things, and we might kind of try to dilute those emotions and those things with, you know, with humor, which may not be appreciated by everybody in your firehouse, and certainly not appreciated by, people that aren't used to that, that type of situation.
They found this mannequin. Well, mannequin, he looks just like a burnt body. So what they did was kind of pull a prank on the other crew, was they took the mannequin and stuffed it back under the fire. So they brought the captain back in and said, I thought you said you did a thorough search. How do you explain this? They all said they did it. And then he's like, oh, no, it wasn't me. They told me that they did that. I wasn't involved in it. Come on down. I yank it out and he's all, oh, you guys. And everyone's all, hey, okay. We got your number.
During a firefighter's career, we're going to know how we got the shoulder pain, we know how we got the stitches in our arm, and we're going to have scars up here. You can't deal with them. And about 8 years ago in the fire service, they started having critical incident stress debriefings.
The mental health of our department is so important, and the stresses that we face are so tremendous sometimes that they've identified that. And we'll get together as a group, everybody that was on the call, from the paramedics, sometimes to the ER staff, to the helicopter units, to the police department, whoever was there at the call. We get together and everybody will talk about the things that they saw, how it's affecting them, and it's a really open atmosphere.
It was very helpful to talk about it, because I know several of the other guys have been involved in fire fatalities. It's very interesting to see what emotions they went through and what emotions that I might be experiencing.
It's a helpless situation sometimes to try and put somebody back together when there's too many things going wrong, Sometimes you just need to talk about it and have the other person say, there's nothing we could do, it's okay, life goes on.
Quite a few people retire out, not with physical injuries, but with mental things. They just get overwhelmed emotionally and can't function anymore. When we go to a call, we're very professional there. No matter what we see or what's going on, is we have to deal with it. And then once that call's over is when we're allowed to fall apart, whether we're at the station or we go home and fall apart.
But I can't deny alcohol being a way to release your stresses, clearly so.
Work in my yard, work in my garage, go surfing with my daughters.
Another way I can alleviate stress for me is my faith, or having some prayerful conversation with the Lord.
You need to leave work at work. You need to be able to have a supportive family that understands what you do.
I go home and talk to my wife, and she's very understanding. She's just a sweetheart when it comes to it. She knows how tough it is, and she knows how beaten we get sometimes on some of these things, some of these calls that can be very tough.
Get his hand back. Watch what he does here. He lets it step. And you have to pick it up. Ooh, 5, 6. No, that was almost. I'm going to take that to get in.
We'll do the dice game to see who does the dishes, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes they change the rules on you in the dice game, so it gets kind of tough.
I almost have a straight. Good, and you can now, because it's a 5 or a 1, you can pick those up. But can I keep them? No, you got to take all.
You end up getting dishwasher hands when you're kind of a junior boot firefighter, but that's just part of the game, and it's a lot of fun. So
there you go. Thank you very much. I'll take my 1. Nobody did. I'm gonna find out who the loser is. Congratulations, Earl. I think this was a good meal to lose. You have soft and smooth good.
Well, gumball is one. Gumball, yeah, that's one.
Fire jumper.
Hose jockey, hose monkey.
Smoke eaters.
Brush thumpers.
And hot shot. Johnny. Or a Jake.
That's about it. I can't think of any other slang words I've heard for firefighters.
The driver's called the chauffeur.
A fireman's fireman. That would be a great thing. And I think it's all a step down from there.
Most of them are unsayable in this context. Some people call them crazy.
Want to cut a little piece of this? There we go.
There you go.
All right, geezer. Just hold it. Oh, there we go.
that ain't no good. It's gotta be hollow. It's gotta be hollow?
Yeah, they're close.
No, you can break, it's just gonna crip. Oh! So where's this gonna happen? It just won't work? Alright. Got it? Let's see if it works before we.
500 park back.
One pump up. Well,
Here, hold it like this. Now hit it with
oh
something.
yeah, that'll work. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're got it. That's what we're looking for. We're gonna go fall, guys.
Every movie you've seen on TV doesn't work.
Well, when you're inside a fire, it's nothing like TV or the movies or anything that Backdraft tries to portray. It's nothing like that. When you're crawling into a working fire, your adrenaline is pumping. Every sense in your body is at its highest level.
Yeah, you're just extremely focused and extremely intense. Everything is magnified by 1,000 as it would be on the outside. It's the best way I can describe what it's like going into a fire.
It's something that you almost have to experience to get the real effect of what it's like. I don't think there's words in the English language that can actually describe what it's like.
You know, it's another planet type of experience.
It's very exciting. It's very scary.
It can get scary.
And it's kind of scary. I mean, you know, anybody that says they're not don't have a little bit of fear when they go into a fire probably isn't being completely honest, because you better have fear and you better respect it, because the time you don't, you know, might be the last.
I think the fear that most firefighters have is that something's going to go bad and we're not going to be able to do anything about it. More than ever, there is a fear of our own safety. Not that that isn't a big issue.
To see that power that this fire is putting out, and to know that you have the tools and the equipment to handle a lot of that, it's just an amazing feeling. It's quite a rush. It's a good time. It's a lot of work. It's physically demanding. It's emotionally demanding, and it's very unforgiving. And I'll tell you though, I mean, you can ask anybody that's in the fire service, and they'll tell you that they love it. It's a very exciting part of the job.
The feeling of accomplishment is absolutely fantastic, and so yeah, when you're in there, it's tough going physically and mentally, and when you come back out, it's really well worth it.
It's extremely hot.
It's very hot, usually.
Sometimes it can be pretty hot. Other times, you cannot see a thing.
The smoke is so thick that you can't see. I mean, you do everything by feel and by memory.
A real fire is dark, very, very dark. Can't see the ends of your fingers in front of your mask.
You're relying on your sense of touch, going through the rooms, trying to search. You'll feel, and you'll know what a crib feels like. You'll know what, oh, this is a chair. Oh, this is a stuffed animal. And you really have to rely on your sense of touch.
Communication is heightened. You hear every little noise, every little scratch. You can hear your partner breathing. The sound of the hose stream is exaggerated.
I mean, it's roaring. It has a very unique sound to its own. As the building's burning, you're going to be hearing glass dropping, pieces dropping, parts of the building falling back, back hopefully away from you. You're going to hear that. You're going to feel it in the floor.
The fire's crackling and making noise, things are melting, falling off the walls, and you're looking for the seat of the fire.
Sometimes the fire's very large, it's right there, it's real blatant, you can see it. Other times it may be in the back of the building or the back of the house, so you've got to, belly down on the ground there on your knees and work your way through basically a blind maze.
And it's hot, so hot that your ears are starting to sear, and you have to stop and listen to find the fire. You know it's in there, but you don't know which way to go.
So how can you find the fire if you can't even see it?
Left-hand edge there.
As you're crawling in, you're looking at the carpet, you're looking at the floor, trying to figure out what room you're in, waiting for some ventilation, because the minute the ventilation comes, the smoke will lift a little bit, and you can figure out where you are.
You may see a little flicker of orange. In the darkness, you know the right way to go.
You get to the seat of the fire, and then it's just work. The water that you're using is going to turn to steam, so it's going to get a little uncomfortable, and it's actually going to get a little bit darker before it starts to get lighter.
You crawl back and find the fire and knock it down, and things start to cool down a little bit, and the truckies go up on the roof and cut a big hole and lift that smoke off you, and you can see, and it's your anxiety level and your adrenaline starts to slow down a little bit.
Fighting a fire is 5 minutes, 10 minutes of excitement, and then as soon as the fire's out, it's the next 2 hours is just real physical, hard work.
Hey, Julie! You're not good.
But that first, few minutes when you're crawling in there, there's no vent hole, and it's hot and it's dark, and you don't know where the fire is, and you don't know if there's victims in there, and you got to put the fire out and do a search and try and find anybody. It's intense. It's very intense.
You rely very much on your partners. You never go in alone. You go in with a minimum of one partner. There's 2 of us in. There's a minimum of 2 of us out.
If there is not a rescue, we're not allowed to go in until we have 2 people outside the building ready to go in case something goes wrong with us inside.
You're looking for doors. You're feeling for people. You're calling out. Your primary mission is rescue and searching and making sure that there's no one still in the house.
If we're going to just put out the fire, that's at one level of stress. Hey, we're just going in, put out a fire, there's nobody in here, it's, a barn or a garage or some kind of a warehouse type of thing. It's like, great. It's a breeze. It's kind of fun. You go in there, you're just fighting fire. When we're going in because there's potentially somebody inside, that's a whole different level of things.
I entered the home on 3 different occasions. I attempted entry at the front door and was driven out by fire. I then attempted entry through a basement and up the stairs into the home, and wasn't able to go very far. It was actually kind of a scary moment for me, not in terms of the fear of me feeling like I was in any danger. It was more fearful that I didn't think I was going to be able to make entry and save the woman. So on the 3rd attempt, I was able to enter the back door and pulled her out to safety.
And it was a typical farmhouse. It was really just your typical bread and butter fire, single-story farmhouse with a fire in the back. And we made our way through down a hallway. I was knocking fire down. There was a fire in the kitchen, and it was going good. And all of a sudden, everything changed, and it got a lot hotter real quick. From the direction that we came in the front door, there was a ball of fire coming around behind us. We got caught in a flashover. And that's when everything in the building, from floor to ceiling, reaches its ignition temperature and ignites. Brian dove out a window head first because he had the window occupied. I went out the door. The guys saw Brian come out. They didn't see me come out. The reaction of those crews when they thought I was still in that building was pretty incredible. I mean, they're all, Danny's still in there, Danny's still in there. And it only lasted for a moment before somebody saw me. But I got a little glimpse of what would happen if I really wasn't there.
San Jose Agent 5 is on scene of a single-story large warehouse complex. Nothing showing. We'll be investigating.
But it is scary, very scary, especially when you're watching TV and you hear about fallen firefighters going through roofs and stuff, and you're just like, oh my God. And like Danny and all the other guys, they see that and they cry because it's a great big family. Anybody who's in this job who listens to the scanners, us wives, and when we're doing it, we all have the same thought. Just be safe.
San Jose, truck 1 in service.
When I do listen to the scanner and an incident is completed, it's my husband's voice as the captain that indicates that they're back in service. So as long as I hear his voice, I know that he's okay.
It is scary at times, knowing the danger that he faces, but the service that he provides to the community is a real important part.
Nobody in my family was a firefighter. The initial reaction was, okay, we'll give that a try, and you could still go to college later.
My dad's pretty supportive. My mom is more or less concerned of the danger.
I'm kind of scared because, fires, I heard a lot of firefighters can die in fires, but I think my dad's pretty strong, and I think it's really cool for my dad to be a firefighter.
He's totally like my hero, He's always going out there and risking his life every day, and I support him 100%.
My kids obviously have known me as a firefighter ever since they've been born, and they think it's neat. They like the fact that I'm a hero kind of, especially my little one. He really holds me in a high esteem.
He's always tired. If he has a busy night, especially, he's always tired. He's like, because I want to do something with him or something, he's like, no, I don't feel like it right now. So I don't really like when the nights are busy.
And I come home first thing in the morning when everybody's waking up, and it's like, all right, we're ready to go do something. And I'll come home going, I'm tired, crabby.
It was a bit of a stress on my first marriage, and I wound up separating there. It was too much time away, too much training, responding to calls. At that time, I was a volunteer. It's a big load on the family.
There's a lot of divorce in this line of work. I think that's probably because they didn't talk or they just didn't understand each other, but
He'll tell me stories of things that happened at work the day before. If there are a lot of stories, we'll take the dog for a walk, and we may walk for 2 hours, and we'll just talk the whole time that we're walking.
sometimes it's like it goes in one ear and out the next because, like I said, I've been listening to this for 20 years. But if it's something that I know is really bothering him, we sit and we talk about it, and then he's better.
They've grown up as a firefighter's family, so I don't think they don't know anything else.
I don't believe that it is necessarily what he does, it's who he is.
Being a firefighter, it's not just your job, it's really part of your life. And you have another family because you're there with them so much.
The true Bob.
Ryan, don't you even start. You got whippers hammer?
We're all family within the fire service, but it makes it extra special when it's actually one of your family members that you're getting a chance to work with. Father's a firefighter, my brother's a firefighter, I'm a firefighter now, my cousin's just now getting into it as well. We all back each other up, and we all know, and we all share the same love for the job, and it's really neat, the support network that we have.
It's just a family. It's just this huge family. And the respect we all have for each other, and the camaraderie and the love we have for each other is just the best. It's the best.
Good to meet you, man. Hey, Merry Christmas! Hey, Merry Christmas! What's up, buddy? Good! Not in the computer room, I have all the shares. Oh, Garrett, this would have been a disaster. I said, they give a lot of you know. Do all the cleaning. You guys touch the concrete?
Call assignment for an attic fire, 5656 Channel Drive.
When our scanner is on and it's in the district where Danny is, I sit there and I'll call the boys in and we'll listen to it. Danny doesn't know that. I don't tell him how scared I am sometimes.
I don't like it when he goes on big fires. So I kind of get scared when that happens.
The hardest part of Jerry's job for me is the emotional part for him.
He goes on so many different calls, auto accidents and so forth, but when there's a child involved, that affects him very hard. He has to go in and be the professional. It's tough sometimes on him.
In a sense, he needs to compartmentalize those emotions. So in our personal life, he sometimes has difficulty in being emotional. That is the difficult part, and that's the selfish part for me. Such as not long ago when I had broken my arm. I felt that he maybe was not as compassionate with me as he could have been.
I'm sure it affects them.
I'm a bookworm. I read an awful lot. I work out. I have my job. I have my kids. And I just deal with it.
I enjoy the fact that he's a firefighter. I like the time that he has daytime with the kids sometimes and stuff, whereas a lot of fathers who work 8 to 5 don't have time to take the kids to the library or take them to their swimming lessons or stuff like that. I enjoy that he will have a whole day off sometimes.
I love his job. I've always been basically a loner, and him being gone 24-hour shifts is great.
I like being with my dad a lot. I don't like it when he's gone for 24 hours. Sometimes he's even gone longer. So he has to do overtime or something, so I don't really like that if he has overtime.
It's somewhat tough sometimes on the family life with kids growing up. Sometimes you're not there several times a week, sometimes for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row where you're not there. But when you are off, you make up for that time and you get right back into the game of that, of being, raising kids and being a father and being a husband.
The only time it bothers me is holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, weddings.
If there's something going to go wrong at home, if somebody's going to get hurt, or if something's going to break, guaranteed I'm on duty.
Seems like every time that he's been at work is when the kids have had to go to the hospital for stitches. Never fails.
It puts a lot of responsibility on your spouse and your kids to be able to take care of things when you're not there.
He calls me every night at 9:30 for the goodnight phone call, and then we speak in the morning when he gets home from work.
Do a lot of what we call phone fathering, where, talk to your son about this, or talk to your daughter about this, or work out stuff with your wife, financial stuff, whatever. Some big decisions have been made in the phone room at the station, let me tell you.
Whenever there's a bad call, he always calls me. If there's a child involved, he definitely calls me.
12-year-old, 13-year-old boy had tried to make it across Highway 12 and get hit by a car at 50, 60 miles an hour. When I got there, he was still breathing.
When he called me that time with that little boy, I said, Danny, come home. He says, no, I'm all right. And I said, no, you're not. Come home, please.
His features were strikingly like my son at the same age. I mean, they were the same size, they looked similar, and when I rolled that little boy over, my son's face, I saw my son there, and at that point, he stopped breathing and he died.
I was so upset. I just, please come home. And he didn't. He stayed there, and for a week, it was getting harder and harder. We went and picked up our Christmas tree, and we're decorating it.
I was hanging ornaments, and all of a sudden, all the smells came back.
So he's up at the top of the tree, and all of a sudden, he just gets this chest-fallen look on his face. He's, oh my God, I can smell his vomit. And it's just terrified me.
It was all right there, and the whole incident started flashing before me, and that's when I knew, and so did my wife, that, wow, this one really hit hard.
I said, okay, I want to go get a pizza. So he says, well, call and order one. I said, no. You stay here with the boys. I'll be right back. Well, what I did is I went down the payphone and I called a friend of ours who went out because of stress-related job on a call that he went on our child. And I called Mike, and I said, Mike, I need your help. So I told him everything that I knew about it, and when I got home, Mike was on the phone to Danny, and that helped tremendously.
And worked it out, you just, time heals, you put it behind you and move forward.
That job there still bothers me because I didn't know what to do. That was one time I was totally lost. But calling Mike was the best move I ever did because he helped him. So the help was there, and Danny wouldn't ask for it. Just, no, I'm fine. But he worked through it, and he'll work through the next one. It's part of the job.
Engine 5, Engine 3, Truck 2, Battalion 1, respond. Fox I-19B, K300.
When you're in the public eye and you see or hear a fire engine or an ambulance with a siren on, you pull over and get out of the way. Because if somebody didn't and got in their way, I wouldn't be alive today. Because another minute or two would have made a big difference in my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, people that saved this man's life.
And thank you, Santa Rosa Fire Department, Santa Rosa EMTs. You guys are the greatest. I'm here because of you. Thanks.
And in the end, I think it is just a hug that you really want. Says it all.
Heroes, I don't know about, because the word hero, it's not like Superman or anything. I don't consider myself to be a hero. To me, a hero is somebody that does something by themselves. Okay, a single thing. In the fire service, I don't think I've ever done that.
Nah, I'm not a hero. Just a firefighter doing his job.
I don't consider myself to be a hero. I consider myself a professional, and I take a great deal of pride in that.
I think young people and people in general in our country look for heroes. And I think firemen and firefighters and police officers, these EMS workers are heroes because they're there when people have great need and they intervene in the midst of people's crises and they make a difference.
And a lot of times I feel, hey, this is our job. This is what we do. And if people want to think of us as heroes, then that's great. But we signed up in the fire service to do this job and to rescue people, to save people.
And if I'm there for somebody and I can make a difference in their life, I've made a difference in my life.
I know that I know how to do some things that other people don't know how to do.
Yes.
I know that with the people I work with, we can arrive and do some really amazing stuff.
I think a lot of people really would respond the way we'd respond, given the right training and education.
And if you cover your victims, you keep all the glass off of them, and then when you pull the cover off, you can pull off the glass.
In today's world, there's so many changes in the way construction is taking place. The use of synthetics, lightweight construction, all kinds of things that can end up being hazards to us. We have to be prepared to handle. The hazards that we face and the dangers we face are so dynamic that our training, our professional knowledge, and our professional skills have to be just as dynamic, if not more dynamic.
Most misunderstood is that how demanding this job is, both physically and mentally. You have to know math pretty well to know what certain pressures are, what hydrant pressures are, what the pressure of that hose line is. I mean, there's so much stuff mentally besides everything on the rig is heavy.
There's all kinds of studying and preparation and testing, both on written material and hands-on skills.
8-month-old drowning in a bathtub, for instance. Some people will look at that and go, "Oh my God, that's, you know, it's so scary and you feel so helpless." But when you fall back on your training, that is just the best feeling in the world. To know that I have the training, the skills, the knowledge, and the techniques and the equipment, along with my team, to take care of the situation and try to give that infant, that patient, whoever it may be, the best chance possible.
A lot of these guys, they're very knowledgeable and they know what they're doing, and there's just so much information they know. It's just like, man, I just want to feed off that, you know, and hope one day I can be as good as them.
Strong point on the engines, it's here, it's down low. I'm assuming that this
when tragedy is happening or whatever, we tend to go in while everybody else is running out.
Sometimes I guess we are heroes when you go to a fire and save people's possessions, or pull somebody out of a burning building. People think of us as heroes. Little kids, you know, run up and, you know, look at you in awe.
They're having the most hectic situation of their life. They've dialed 911, which is a big event for them. We come, solve their deal. Most of the time, 99% of the time, people say thanks, appreciate it.
The best feeling, though, is when somebody comes up to you and says thanks.
That's the greatest thing there is. We'll get notes, and somebody will bring us cookies or come by, and so that compensation, that's the best thing. Work all day long for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, very good. And then you guys are all here all alone and don't have your families on Christmas, so you get to.
True.
Thanks a lot. Maybe next year too.
We'll be here.
We'll be
See you
here.
guys later. Thank you very much.
I was really proud the day that I was riding on the top of the fire truck in the Santa parade, standing right next to Santa and waving to the kids in the parade, because I never, ever, when I was a little girl at the parades, I never saw women firefighters. And I'm proud that I'm a role model so that little girls can grow up and know that they too could be a firefighter if they wanted to.
Santa Rosa, truck one. Santa Rosa. That's Watson service.
When I go home in the morning and we went on this call and made an outcome in that call, I come home and it's like, yeah, I had a good day. And I get to go back in another day.
It's just a great profession and a great bunch of people that are just totally dedicated to the public and making their lives better and safer.
I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't imagine not doing this.
Well, you don't ever want to see someone hurt or injured, or see someone's house catch on fire. But we know that those things are inevitable. They're going to happen, and if they are going to happen, I want to be the one there helping.
I really, truly, truly enjoy being there to help people in a time of need.
I can't say enough of how rewarding a job that is, to go in there and take a bad situation and make it better.
I know this sounds kind of corny, but we're the community's last hope when something's going wrong. Who else are you going to call? There's no one else. You call the fire department.